Hello, Canada. Hello, United States of America. Greetings to every single one of you all over Panama and the entire planet. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Kevin J. Johnston Show that runs every single Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Yeah, we're going to have a great show tonight, everybody. And you know the drill. You know the drill. Kevin J. Johnston, the big mouth from Canada that had to escape Canada to Panama, comes out here and tells you anecdotal tales about the boo-boo on his finger and the thing that he dropped on his foot. We're not doing that tonight. We're going to dive right into it because so many of my American fans out there keep asking for American guests and some American news. Hey, I love America. I said, no problem. I decided to bring out a man who's just slightly better looking than I am and who's been around the block a lot more than I have, knows a lot about American politics because he's been involved in it and has worked very closely with my favorite president, the best president in the history of the USA, Donald J. Trump. Without further ado, everybody, here is C.L. Bryant. Welcome back to the show. So good to see you.
Kevin J. Johnson, good to be with you, brother. Thank you so much.
Well, it's always an honor to talk with you. I've been following you for quite some time. We had you on the show about a year and 2 weeks ago now, and I figured it's been too long. It's been really too long, and a lot has gone right and wrong in the world since you and I last spoke. Let's dive into it. We've had Donald Trump charged, run through the courts in New York, and then exonerated, kind of. Let's get your take on that, please.
Well, because the president has the type of character that he has been blessed with through the storm that he's been through, he's still standing. And I certainly do believe that he will continue to stand. And I believe what has happened is that through their own chicanery and certainly their ineptness, the left in this country, America, has actually exposed themselves to the light of day. And it actually took someone with the courage and the backbone, the intestinal fortitude of a Donald John Trump to stand his ground, as all Americans should stand their ground now in the face of adversity when we're facing socialist types of tendencies that will surely destroy our great republic. So when we look at the attacks on Donald John Trump, We're looking at the attacks on America itself. Because if they can do what they have done to the former president of the United States, and it looks like the next president of the United States, Donald John Trump, then my friends, wherever you are in America, wherever you are, may happen to be in the world, facing this type of adversity, they can do it to you if they can do it to him. So wake up, all of you out there, and understand that the heavy hand of government can crush you wherever you may be.
That is very true, my friend. And right now, there's over 305 that we know of political prisoners in Canada, people who simply have disagreed with public policy, have disagreed with unfettered immigration, have disagreed with, let's be honest here, the pedophiles who run the Canadian government and who want to run the US government. In Canada, when you offer opinions contrary to that, you go to prison. Mr. Bryant here, I just got to show you this photograph. My fans have seen this photograph 1,000 times. This was me running for mayor of Calgary. So everything, I was locked up for 7 weeks during the campaign. They also banned me from being in crowds, so I couldn't have large audiences like you saw there, lest I be brought in for breach of conditions, which happened twice. They put this extremist far left individual in charge of my freedom. And she was not too pleased with the fact that there was a chance that I could win the race. So with that level of interference, the 7 weeks during and the 40 days after, plus I think it was 15 and then 12 and then house arrest, then they took my house. You're right. Government can do these things to people, and it's being done to Americans now. So I just wanted to get your take here on, is America in danger of becoming Canada with these policies? Please go ahead.
Absolutely, they are. You see, what happens is they come for the Canadians, and none of us who believe in Republican forms of government or a true Republican form of government, we didn't say anything about that when some Canadians asked for our opinion and perhaps our intervention in some things that were going on. They came for the Cubans. They've come for many around the country. There are bases being moved into El Salvador and places like that in Latin America. So if they come for these people, and America does not offer any type of adequate resistance to what is going on as far as the advent and the advancement of socialism and communism in our country, Marxism in our country, then we will become Canada. We will become Cuba. And the very tools that are necessary to cause us to be those countries are invading our southern border. And I don't believe that is by accident, and I believe it's part of the entire plan to change the scope, the frame, and the destiny of a once and still great and powerful nation, United States of America.
I agree. And the United States of America has always been the place everybody wants to go. And American ingenuity was something that was marketed very well by America for decades. And the United States of America has always been very good at marketing itself worldwide. And if you do a quick comparison, the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., you've got the Space Museum. We've got, I can't name them all, but you've got every museum going on the Smithsonian Mall there. And then you compare all the American history that you get to see for free in Washington, D.C., to the Ottawa, the capital of Canada, the Ottawa Museum of, I think it's called Art, maybe. It's $20 to get in, and all the art inside is done by foreigners because white people apparently are not allowed to express themselves in Canada. Right. So we got to talk about that now. Is America in danger of going down that road where white folks have absolutely no say whatsoever anywhere? Please go ahead.
No question about it. And if they did wind up in a situation like you've just described, it would be their own fault. And that is because there were certain principles that were laid out by our founding fathers that stated specifically that we have an endowment. All of us, red, yellow, black, white, all of us have an endowment given to us by our Creator, as I believe as a Christian pastor here in America. And what that means is it boils down to what Dr. King said. You bring to the American table the content of your character. And that is what opens the door to prosperity in our nation, the content of your character. If we were to go back in American history and talk to Frederick Douglass, who was, in fact, a runaway slave in his own right. I made a movie of that same name on a modern day type of scope. And I am the runaway slave. I was a part of the Democrat Party for many, many years, president of the NAACP, which is a leftist arm at this point in time of the Democrat Party. And that was 35 years ago. A light came on in my head, and I left them, or as Reagan said once, of the Democrat Party. I didn't really leave the NAACP. They left me. And Americans have to wake up. There's so many things that are going on in our nation that's leaving you. And you have to decide how you will stand up and push back against that.
Yeah, I agree, because everything that made America great is being completely bastardized by everybody on the left. Hollywood, as they call it now, is Holly woke, where you have nothing but fundamentalist, anti-Christian, anti-establishment, anti-America, overweight lesbians running absolutely everything and telling the rest of us that we have to like female leads who are gay themselves, or we are, what is it, misogynistic. That's what we're told. So Hollywood's done. The music scene appears to be finished, because if Taylor Swift is the best we can do, I'd rather just be deaf, if you want the truth. And literature is shifting to the point now where both in Canada and the United States, we're putting books of oral sex into the hands of grade 4 and grade 5 students, an age bracket that thinks that kind of thing is crazy, insane, and doesn't even happen. So we have a big shift away from what made America great by the left. Now, could I ask you, with all that in mind, how did the left wing become so powerful in the United States?
The left wing became powerful through deception. And I reference the scriptures, the gospel of Jesus Christ, Matthew 24, when he's asked about the signs of the end of this age. And yes, wars and rumors of wars and nation against nation, all of that is there. But the first thing he told them was, beware that no man deceives you. My friend, we live in an era, we live in a time of mass deception. The liberals, the Democrat Party, came to power through mass deception. Joe Biden himself is the fruit of mass deception. As I said earlier, these people have actually outflanked themselves. They painted themselves really into a corner. And I don't think there is any way that they can get out of that corner without getting paint all over them. And so they came to power deceiving the churches, the Black church in particular. They led many of the Black pastors who happened to be the tribal chiefs of their churches. And I'm not speaking ill of them. I happen to be a part of that clergy myself for over 35, 40 years. I was a pastor of churches across this country. And so I know how the game is played when the politician approaches the pastor in the pulpit. They give him a little money. They tell him to vote for his friend. He tells the congregation, we're going to vote for our friends. And the congregation knows what the tribal chief is conveying to them. That's how the Democrats have gotten into so many communities. They've co-opted priests in Latin communities and so forth. That is the deception that they have played and have perpetrated upon this country. And it continues until we wake up, until it stops.
Right. Now, I got to ask this question, because I've made very many comments on this in Canada, and I've scolded Canadians quite a bit, and I get a lot of really negative emails when I do so, but it's what I do. How is it that the conservative side, the Christian side of the argument in the United States hasn't put a stop to this yet?
Because of this thing called peer pressure. There are, and whether you're white, black, old, or young, we all want to be liked by somebody who may have a different political opinion that we do. And for the sake of peace, harmony in the home, in the church, at the business, we don't say anything, and we let it go on. But the progressive movement does not care about your silence. They don't care about you being nice guy. they are hell bent and on destroying certain principles so that they can march in the various ideas that you're talking about as far as sexuality in America is concerned, sexuality in the world is concerned. I'm reminded of a passage of scripture in Genesis, the story of Lot, where the entire town surrounded his home wanting to have sex with some men who had come to visit his house, not knowing that they were angels. And what was strange in that passage is that it said, every man, every woman, young and old, from every quarter, surrounded his house. And what really makes us think when we think about how one person's house can be surrounded by citizens of his community, the one person that didn't show up, the people who never showed up at his home were the authorities who told these people to leave this man alone, who told these people to go on and mind their own business. This had become a part of their culture. And that is what's happening in our world today. Oversexed, sex charged everything, including fourth grade material, is becoming a part of our culture. And before you know it, there will be all types of sexual perversion and crimes committed against children that nobody will come and say anything about. Do you know why? Because it would have become a part of our society. That's where we're headed. Not only here in America, it's already happening in other parts of the world.
It is. And I want to remind everybody that this is what destroyed the Roman Empire. They got to the point where they had so much technology and so much wealth that all they were doing was fornicating all the time. And men who were married typically were not only allowed to have young males as sex slaves, they were encouraged to do so. So the Colosseum, for example, all this radical, crazy sexual activity was taking place in the vomitoriums. No, vomitorium is not where you puke. Vomitorium is the way out of the Colosseum. That is where all this crazy fornication would be taking place. And no one noticed the barbarians came back to the gates. They chased them all away, but the barbarians came back, destroyed the aqueducts, destroyed the roads, destroyed the infrastructure, and Rome fell really fast. And that's my biggest fear about North America right now, is that everybody's flying these ridiculous flags. And in Florida, my friend, we had a kid who's 18 years old, did a burnout on a pride flag painted on the ground. And now they're hitting him with the maximum felony they could possibly hit him with. Wow. So let me ask, why is America going down the road of prosecuting people who can't stand the radical left, this LGBTQ nonsense, and that pride flag, which is a hate symbol? Go ahead.
It is the road that is going to be traveled. I do believe that we can, in fact, put several roadblocks in it, but you can't save people from themselves. My wife and I were in Rome. We're at the very Colosseum you're talking about, touring it about 2 weeks ago now, and we just returned. And as we left the Colosseum that particular day, there was a massive gay pride parade that went right past the Colosseum. It was at least 100, 200,000 people out there in the street, let alone the spectators. There had to be more than 500,000 people right there in the Colosseum square, in that square where the Colosseum is. And so, yes, there is a certain movement, a constant march toward a degenerating society when we look at our nation. And we cannot leave out the fact that people are pouring across our borders here that we have no idea who they are, and in many cases where they are, or where they may appear at any given time in our American lives. We have enough of our own problems to tell the rest of the world. We have enough of our own problems in America without importing or allowing in other problems. What it is with any other country. You have enough of your own problems without importing problems. So anyone coming into America should bring something with them, and it is the idea to contribute to the American experience and not ride the wagon, the gravy train that has been America, but that train will soon be without gravy because we cannot feed the world and we certainly cannot police the world.
Donald Trump once said, especially to the WEF, that he was not the president of planet Earth. He was the president of the United States, and that he was putting America first. And now my theory was on this one is that Donald Trump, with his big mouth, you got to love the guy for that. I do. With his big mouth, his cantankerous attitude and whatnot, America is pretty much the only place that a guy like that could become a billionaire, lose his wealth, become a billionaire again, lose his wealth, become a billionaire again, and then the president of the United States. There's no other country on the planet where a driven man like that can do all of this. So why is it that the American people do not recognize what they have with America being the only place you can pull stunts like that? Please, I got to hear this.
Is because we have grown used. We've gotten used to weakness, and we had forgotten what strength actually looked like in a male, in a man. Donald John Trump, we were not trying to elect a pastor, or we weren't trying to elect or elevate a priest or anything like that. We were looking for someone who could, in fact, infuse back into America the pride that goes with producing, the capitalist system, the free market system, the engine that is America, the greatest nation on the face of the planet. Donald John Trump exemplified the masculinity of what that was all about. And because we are producing a weak, demasculated type of man in this, emasculated type of man in this society, we sometimes are programmed to push against someone who reminds us of what we used to be, and that was strong. And I'm not a chauvinist in any kind of the way. I respect women. My wife is the queen of my life. My daughters are all the same as far as I am concerned, and they have every right to be whoever they want to be and do whatever they want to do with their lives and professions. However, I do believe, and I've said this many times around this country, and be happy to say it anywhere I am allowed to say it. And it's this: I believe that there is an imbalance in the estrogen and the testosterone in our society, especially as Americans. I believe that we have an estrogen-driven society, almost a female-dominated society, in the sense young men don't have the influence of the right type of male. The right type of male has not been in the lives of too many of our young men, and it's made them weak. And when they see a strong man like you, perhaps, myself, perhaps, and certainly Donald Trump, perhaps, when they see a strong man, they tend to want to push back against that because it's more comfortable in their weakness than it is to stand up and be a man on your own 2 feet. So we shun that. We shun that. We want the comfort of the slavery of being told what to do, and instead of the independence of being who you were created to be.
All right. Well, I agree with that. And Ed's got some commentary. You're up. Ed, your microphone. 7 years later, you're still doing that. Ed, microphone.
Kevin, I've said it once. I've said it a million times. It's all part of the plan. Look up the Communist Manifesto. Destroying the nuclear family, Mr. Bryan, that's what you're just talking about. In short form, right? Destroy the nuclear family, no more male influence or female influence. Everything gets turned upside down, and then that's what we end up with. I was blessed with parents and a stay-at-home mom. So she set me back in line, and when Dad got home, boy, did he ever put me back in line. And I can honestly say I've never gone to jail. Not like Kevin.
Yeah, well, Kevin did it just for talking in a country you're not allowed to talk in. Let's be clear on that. Kevin doesn't commit crimes.
Well,
yeah, but what you're talking about, though, is the Communist Manifesto. The Democrats, they've been pushing this down for decades. Now, speaking about Democrats, how come Bill Clinton is allowed to pay off a some lady who he didn't have sexual relations with in the White House. And Donald Trump, they want to throw him in jail for that. How does that work?
Well, it works. It works just like that because Bill Clinton, of course, is a Democrat darling, and Donald Trump happens to be someone whose face is on a political wanted poster. As far as and he says it very well when he says this. He says, "They're not after me; they're after you. I just stand in the way," and that is true. He does represent, as I was alluding to earlier, a certain manhood that we have lost in America. Yes, he's very bombastic, to say the least, as far as that's concerned. He is, in many cases, his own counsel, but he has grown into a different type of leader. And I think we're going to see that this time, that he has grown. And so Bill Clinton getting away with something like that, who's surprised? You or I would not get away with something like that in America. However, Nancy Pelosi would, and so that's just the game is played right now.
Is there anything in the Constitution? Sorry, Kevin. Is there anything in the American Constitution where everyone is equal under the law?
Oh, we should be. That is the rule of law. As far as it's concerned, all of us should be equal under the law. However, men are the ones who administer and then judge us by those laws. And if you have someone corrupt in a high place with the type of juice that some of these have had, then of course you get the type of outcomes that we are seeing now as well. So we have to pay very close attention to who it is we allow behind the wheel of this American vehicle.
Okay, just one more point, Kevin, and then I'll let you go for a good half hour. With Donald Trump, he got stabbed in the back by his own people many times. Is he going to check his close associates and his advisors? Like Fauci, perfect example. He led Donald Trump right down the garden path to basically genocide of our own people.
I was telling the gentleman that my wife and I were just in Rome, and across from the street from a place we were eating was the spot where Julius Caesar was stabbed to death on the Ides of March. And his words were finally, "E tu, Brute." And so the associates and people who clamor around you, especially when you are in the atmosphere and the air, the rarefied air that the president is in. And when you have the type of personality that has drawn the type of ire and admiration for this man, you're going to certainly run the risk of having people around you that mean you harm. That's just the risk. Yeah. And God only knows how the end comes for any of us. And so the only thing we can trust, as far as I'm concerned, is my faith in the Almighty God and the common sense that he gave me to determine who's in and who's out of the circle of my life. And I think the president is probably going to make some wise choices this time, at least as wise as a person can be with the knowledge or the information that they may have to make those decisions.
So he was surrounded by swamp people.
Say again, I'm sorry.
He was surrounded by swamp people. Some of his advisors were the swamp he was trying to get rid of.
Well, the very idea of swamp people comes from the fact that Washington is a swamp. And I don't care if you're a good old boy from wherever, and you ran a very good campaign promising to do this. But then you go to this very seductive place. And I don't know if you ever spent any time in Washington, D.C., around the shakers and movers of big government in Washington, D.C. Washington is a very seductive place. It's easy to point fingers at someone who goes to Washington and then they're rubbing elbows with the very people they talk about. But that's the people who are there. And if you're going to change any of this, and I think Christ is probably a prime example of that, you have to be where they are. If there are sinners in your eyes, then you might need to go where those sinners are and let your light shine among them. And hey, sometimes in politics, and that's the name of the game, there's no one way to do anything. There's always a conversation. There's always going to be compromise. Friends, let's not fool ourselves. That's the name of the game.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. Well, Ed, thanks for that. And for those who are joining us late here on TikTok, we got a really good comment here. Whoever is speaking is brilliant. Who is speaking, everybody, is C.L. Bryant, who is a former Trump advisor and hopefully will be again when Donald J. Trump wins the presidency this year. That's what we're certainly hoping for. And it's no secret. I have made absolutely no secret of my love of the Trump administration, or at least Trump himself, when he was in power. And I'm very, very sad to see America's fall under Biden. Now, we all knew this was going to happen if you had a brain in your head, but I've got to ask this one. Michigan State University had an incredible video. It was F Joe Biden, and like the whole audience, 110,000 people stamping their feet and saying this. That seems to be a massive phenomenon all over the United States. How is it, though, that we can still have over 43% of Americans that want Biden back in office? Is it Trump derangement syndrome? Is it stupidity? Let me hear this, please.
It very well could be a little bit of both. And certainly the news media, CNN and MSNBC, the usual suspects, ABC, NBC, they have certainly done a very good job in vilifying this man. And if you know him, if you've met him, if you've been around him, you may not even know him. Let me tell you this. He's a very, very fine individual, very fine individual. And my wife and I were actually married at Mar-a-Lago back on the 28th of October of last year. And second time around for both of us. And it was a wonderful, wonderful place. The president, we saw him about 2 weeks before the wedding. And he was coming, but he had to fly to Nevada. I think it was that weekend to be at some Jewish conference there in Nevada. But just the same, if you don't know him, you just simply, if you've never met the man, if you don't know him, I'd certainly encourage you not to judge him at all by the media.
Well, we get that. And everybody wants to judge based on CNN and the crazy left-wing media. And the crazy left-wing media has been used in Canada against anybody who's conservative. I mean, like, who am I? I'm just this middle-aged guy with a smile on his face with gray hair. And in 2021, running for Calgary, which is 2 time zones west of Toronto, I still made the front page of every newspaper in Toronto because they wanted to say racist, Islamophobic, homophobic, transphobic, this phobic, that phobic, and so on. Bad guy. Oh, and by the way, he got arrested. Well, he got arrested because they didn't want me winning. But the average person doesn't seem to understand that. So when Donald Trump was not arrested, but asked to turn himself in, there were celebrations all over the country. For what? What exactly are these people celebrating? Do you know?
Rush Limbaugh said it this way. Those are the uninformed masses. And unfortunately, that is something that is raising its ugly head. And that is the defiant ignorance of the uninformed masses. And I'm not talking about those who, I don't care what station in life you're in, you can be informed. And it doesn't matter what color you are or what nation you happen to be a part of, you can be informed. But then there are some who prefer to be told than to find these things for themselves or examine these things for themselves. And so that is what leads to what you are describing and what you're alluding to, the people who are uninformed. The worst decisions are made simply because you don't know what you don't know, but yet you make a choice anyway. That is
strange.
You
think you know. I think they think they know. That's got to be it. So Ed and I have had this. Yeah, hold on. I was going to say you and I had a conversation about the possibility of there being civil uprising and or civil war should this election be canceled, because my thoughts are, and we've talked about this a number of times, that the Democrat Party, the only way for them to win at this particular point is to cancel the election. So ramp up Israel, Palestine, ramp up Boko Haram versus the Christians in Nigeria, ramp up the Ukraine and Russia bit. Is there a possibility of them canceling the election? And if so, will that lead to civil unrest? Go ahead.
If that were to happen, it would lead to civil unrest. However, I do not believe that that is going to occur. I do believe that there is going to be some type of September or even October surprise in our nation. And mark this spot right here where I said that. I do believe there's going to be some type of late September or October surprise in our nation. I am concerned to what that may be, simply because our nation is so unprotected at this point in time, and the leadership of our country is so much in question. Surely, after you saw if you saw the debate of Donald John Trump and Joe Biden last week, then you must understand that we are like a ship at sea without a captain. And so we're wondering who is actually in command of this ship that is on a stormy sea. And so that's where we are as Americans. And it's created something that many people have never seen in Americans before, and that is apprehension, animosity, uncertainty. Those are not American traits. We're confident and we're very sure type of people. That is part of who we are. But that is being bred out of us, and it is certainly being led out of us by the political forces that be.
If I could cut in?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay, I see three scenarios possibly developing. First one, derivative scandal. The derivatives are in the billions of trillions of dollars. I think $700 trillion. We've got the American dollar that came off of the oil standards. Now oil is being traded in almost any currency now. Bretton Woods no longer is in real effect. So there's going to be a lot of American dollars coming back to America. And once that happens, it's going to be flooded with excess currency. And what's that going to lead to? Hyperinflation? Second thing is we've got bank failures in the States, left, right, and center. The sharp rise in interest rates, I'm sure this is what caused it. And how many banks have failed and how many more are going to fail in the next few months? That's coming. And the third thing it's just off the radar right now, is the bird flu. Is Fauci going to try it again?
Quite somebody of Fauci's stature. All of these things, of course, are geared toward unrest. And when you create civil unrest, as Saul Alinsky alluded to, you then create a perfect situation for government to be the answer to that unrest. And the reason why government becomes the answer to that unrest is because government caused the unrest. And so, yes, that is certainly something that is a method of to cause civil unrest. And I do see that quite possibly a tool in the toolkit of those who want to see that in America. But this is one thing that I think is discounted and maybe not thought of, and it certainly should not be discounted because I'm among these people, and that is the grassroots movement in America. Once was known as Taxed Enough Already, Tea Party, TEA, Taxed Enough Already. That's what that stood for. I was one of the leaders, the founders of that through Freedom Works that I worked for many years in Washington, D.C. There is a remnant, as I use a biblical type of reference. There's a remnant of those of us who understand what America is, what it was, and what she still can be with the right leadership and with the right awakening. And that is something that is happening right now. America is being awakened. It's being shaken awake by the horror of what has happened in our White House. It is something that we must correct, because if we don't correct that, surely America could go away. And as I said to you earlier, I think we were off air. Where do people go if America goes away? Who do they turn to if America goes away? If we become just like any other country of history, Rome, we mentioned that, we wind up on the scrap heap of history, then what? What happens?
Well, my concern would be a complete and total division of the country. Knowing how many nuclear weapons there are in the United States, the last thing I'd like to see would be America becoming 4 or 5 different countries, each one fully armed to the teeth and on each other's borders. The same thing that bothered me about the breakup of the Soviet Union was the fact that Kazakhstan instantaneously became the 3rd leading nuclear power between submarine ships and missiles in the world, just because the Soviet Union couldn't get their missiles back into old Russian territory before the breakup happened. But countries like Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan also have nuclear weapons. That frightens me. What if radical, leftist, insane, crazy, nonsensical, maniacal Seattle ended up making their own crazy left-wing country up to, let's say, the Rocky Mountains, and they have even just 10 nuclear weapons there? It's terrifying.
It would be a sad situation. And surely we could teeter toward that. But still, there is some, pardon me, some sense of, I won't say decency, but there's some sense of self-preservation that does exist still among us. The leaders of all of the countries that you might be speaking of, they have families, they have children as well. And that's one of the things that keep things sane. We talk about the rise of the conservative woman in this country. And I think it's time for that to happen, the rise of women, because there has to be a balance in what's going on. There's a need for nurturing, but there is a need for strength. And so that's what I was saying about the imbalance of estrogen and the imbalance of testosterone. There has to be a balance of that even in politics, especially since the times they have changed, and they are changing.
Yeah, they certainly are, and that frightens me immensely. Ed, what's up?
Now you're talking about the Great Awakening in the United States. Is anyone aware of the creature from Jekyll Island?
Oh, sure. I've been to Jekyll Island, and the one thing that I want you to know is that what were you going to say though about that?
The America, or the United States, was a land of milk and honey, and it's because they were on the gold standard up until 1929, I believe, when the banksters completely took over. And this is all tied into the industrialists that went down with the ship in the Atlantic Ocean. It's all tied together, this whole thing.
Yeah.
And because our money has been made based on nothing, it's invented out of nothing. Then Nixon took you guys off the gold standard. I think we followed the following year in Canada. That's why we've got inflation. That's why dollars isn't worth anything anymore. That's why taxes have to go up. A few people and the banksters, those scumbags, are making out off like scoundrels. This whole thing about COVID-19 is the largest wealth transfer ever. The middle class has been almost decimated.
Yeah.
Is Trump aware of this? And can he do anything about it without getting shot like Kennedy did back in '63?
Well, certainly we pray for the president's safety, no question about it. But taking on this type of job and the type of mission is certainly something that does introduce risk in doing so when so much money is on the line. There's no question about that. When we look at how this does play out, though, we are looking at a scenario that here in America is becoming more dangerous as the days pass. That is because we're not certain who is here. Our threat level for terrorist attack is very high. Even our men and women abroad are on high alert for terrorist attack. Joe Biden is inept, visibly weak.
Oh,
Our enemies see this. And it is like perhaps a sleeping lion that we have been being surrounded by hyenas. And it is something that is certainly fearful. But the great the thing that has saved our nation is the spirit that we have had from our inception. And that is we're exceptional. And why is that? It's because of what you said. A man can come here and not be anybody. Doesn't matter where his parents are from. Doesn't matter who his father was or where he came. You can come to America and become an American. And you can experience the greatness of what that free market and capitalist system has done for others. And you guys may not be all on board with that, but it's worked for many that I know. And I'm certain it'll work for those who would take advantage of it. They're coming here doing it.
Okay. Well, here's what I can tell you is that Canada was pretty damn good in the 70s, the 80s, up to about 1994. There was an economic crash in 94 that kind of, the country's just limped on ever since. It really hasn't done much. And more towards the late 1980s, the Canadian people's mindset changed to let's try to boost ourselves up because we're competing with America. We want to be as good as America. We hate Americans because they're better. And then all of a sudden it became a self-sabotaging thing where Canadians did not want to have loud, obnoxious Canadians doing well financially. Canadians actually started sabotaging themselves, their own countries, their neighbors. Then the government got in on this and started sabotaging Canadians as well. So we just gave up. Canada just gave up as a nation, but America kept going until recently, like the last, obviously this presidency and all the left-wing rhetoric that went on during Trump's first campaign and his presidency. We're seeing Canada giving up as a nation, and that influence, I think, maybe the American left have picked up on that, or did the American left just make up what they're doing now? Do you have any idea where the leftism itself came from?
It
go ahead.
Came straight from Columbia University and places like that, who did embrace the idea of supremacy. And that's, I only have 10 minutes. I can only stay with you another 10 minutes, but I certainly love to come back and talk to you about this and where all that comes from. You see,
Absolutely.
the left claims to be the champion of the downtrodden, the black man, the person of color, Hispanic, what have you, but yet the truth of the matter is, and what I found out, I've seen both sides of the street. I've been a liberal. But I've been a Republican now for over 30 years, and I left the Democrat Party over 35 years ago to try being an independent. But there's one thing that I do know that the left has found out, and I'll leave you with this. They found it out from the slave master back in the 1800s in America. And they found out that the slave does not necessarily seek freedom. The slave seeks comfort. And you take any socialist organization around the country, around the world, they will go by this particular formula. They know that the slave does not seek freedom necessarily. They will trade their freedom for comfort. And that's what's happening in America with all the free stuff, the free things that are bandied about throughout the world to various people to get them to get along with government. And but the slave will trade that for a softer bowl, a softer bed to lie on, more food in his bowl, free health care, an Obama phone, whatever. The slave does not necessarily seek freedom. He seeks comfort in that freedom, in that slavery. And so that's the method. ideology, and we can talk about it. But the racist idea of it, the racial tone of it, comes in by design. Sure, we all know. Everyone knows that you bleed just like I do, and the blood is red. We all know we breathe the same air. We just have different hair texture, different skin color, but we're all the same as far as humanity is concerned. We're human beings. And so, but the idea of separating you and dividing you into subspecies of color and those types of things, then you have a control over a block. And therein the politics begins to play. So, friends, I really would love to talk to you a long time, and certainly the next time that we come together, perhaps we can discuss some things that you would like to talk about, and things I'd like to chime in on with you.
Certainly.
Yeah, certainly like a chance to do it. Thank you so much.
Well, I'd love to have you back, and we will definitely cover that, because this whole white versus black thing, obviously CNN and the Democrats have really tried to divide us. And what I'm hoping here with certainly your position as a clergyman, you're going to be able to bridge that gap a bit, because I'd like to bridge it too. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of color. I'm so sick of hearing it.
Right. Right.
Well, CL Bryant, it's a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you
really
so much.
Appreciate being here.
And God bless and God keep you all. Look forward to being with you again.
Oh, yeah, it'll happen. I promise you that. Have a great night. Take care.
Bye now.
Former Trump advisor CL Bryant, everybody. What a remarkable man. Very clever man. And yes, to everybody who's throwing compliments out, he is very clever, incredibly well-spoken, very well-educated. And he's very popular with the Republican Party. Obviously, he would have to be if he's going to be advising Donald Trump on anything. So we will be covering a bit more American content for my American friends who want to hear more of it. We will get as much as we can in there. But don't forget, we still have Canadians who are just absolutely dying in Canada, left, right, and center. And Ed's doing something here with the screen. Ed, I have no idea what you're doing. But I have to answer some questions now that were brought forward by many of you about the drug problem in Canada. I'm going to explain that. Ed, you had a question? Go ahead before we start doing drugs here. Sorry, before we start talking about drugs here. All right. Microphone. Again, twice in the same show. Microphone. Ed.
Which president's wife was it that said kids don't do drugs? Reagan?
That was Nancy Reagan. Nancy Reagan, yeah. Yeah.
I got an announcement of an event that's happening this Saturday night and Sunday.
Okay, so throw it up.
Throw it up. That's what I was playing around with.
Throw it up, because I've got to talk to people about something else. It's very serious. What's this?
So on the 6th and the 7th, Lakeshore, 2313 Lakeshore Boulevard, Etobicoke, wearethe.change.ca. There's going to be a convention, and we got a couple dozen people, more than I think it's about 24 people speaking on 4 or 5 different panels. We've got doctors coming in, we got lawyers coming in, we got activists coming in, nurses. Vincent Gersi's also going to be there. A whole bunch. Dr. Daniel Nagasi's going to be coming in.
Yeah. We got Mark Trozzi, Jenny May, Dr. David Spencer, Dr. Emad Gurgis, Chris Shoemaker, Chris Sky, Chris Day. Okay, so we got some pretty big names coming in for this thing. What's the date and time?
So it starts 5 p.m. Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
I wish I could see the address. Let me go to the other.
Well, check. Hey, everyone. If anybody wants to see all those doctors and Chris Sky and Kellyanne Wolf and a few others, just go to wearethechange.ca. That's wearethechange.ca. Okay, Ed, I gotta address this now. All right, everyone, please, if you're watching, share, and share some more. What's going on in Canada right now? Why are so many white people dying in the streets as homeless individuals, completely strung out on drugs? We're going to cover it right now. And I don't care how unpopular this makes me, period. I really couldn't care less about the Canadian government. I know the RCMP is watching this show right now. I'm well aware of the fact that Fag Force One is what we call them. That's the Peel Regional Police Force, the crazy radical leftists that stalked me and my family for years. They're watching. Who cares? We have a problem, people. And I'm going to address white people now. why you need to smarten up and grow up immediately. This whole thing about multiculturalism was shoved down Canadians' throats shortly after Mao Zedong killed 100 million Chinese people. And his good friend Pierre Elliott Trudeau went over there and brought back this idea from him. Well, it's not a good idea at all. It hasn't worked at all. What has happened here is this multiculturalism concept has just become nothing but anti-white rhetoric. That's all that it is. Complete anti-white rhetoric. Let's talk about me for a second here. In 2017, because I cracked a couple of Muslim jokes and because I read passages out of the Quran without embellishment, verbatim, in fact, I got arrested by 2 white cops, this guy named Thompson and some loser chick cop who just kept looking at me all angry, like, didn't say a word. She was like Penn and Teller, right? Except not funny. And here I am 7 years later being prosecuted by a white Crown attorney and a white judge in a white court in a white country, in a supposedly a Judeo-Christian country. And I'm not, I'm going to be raked over the coals in the courts. In fact, I'm in court tomorrow, I think at 9 a.m. Toronto time. For what exactly? Why is it that white people are insisting upon the destruction of white people? Why is it that we want to tell whites you cannot criticize anyone who's not white? But everybody who's not white can criticize, beat up, steal from, rob, shoot, kill, and rape those who are white. Think about how crazy our system has become. And what has this led to? Homeless and dead white people, strung out white people on drugs. Now, let me tell you why that is because the Islamic gangs out there, they decided, I've been in a couple of these meetings where the Muslim scholars and the Muslim elite in the province of Ontario have stated, we want Mississauga, my hometown. We want this city. So they've put more mosques in than there are churches. Islam apparently represents, 11% of the entire population of my hometown. Yet there are triple the number of mosques that there are Christian churches in the very same town, my hometown, which would lead me to believe that the Muslims are the ones who are paying the courts to punish a guy like me for telling you the truth about radical Islam's influx into my hometown. What does that also mean? They're killing you. Muslims are killing Christians. Muslims are killing white people with fentanyl, heroin, laced cocaine, laced magic mushrooms. That is what they're doing. Muslims and radical Islamists and Arabs are all poisoning your children, and the Chinese are doing it in the west of the country right now. They're giving away drugs to your kids. That is why fentanyl deaths are at an all-time high. They're at an all-time high for white people, pretty much white people only, except for those who are born in Canada who are not white, who grew up in Mungie Cake Society like me and Ed here. They are the ones also taking these drugs. We have the communist Chinese government, and we've got a number of Islamic nations completely at war with we, the white people of Canada. That is why the drugs are everywhere. That's why your kids are high and dying of overdoses. That is why people are losing their homes. It's not just the Canada Revenue Agency doing this. It is these communist Chinese and these radical Islamist groups doing it. Now, the part that bothers me the most is that if you're inside of Canada, you can't say it's Muslim gangs distributing drugs. You have to use the term Islamist gangs. So I'm not doing that. They're Muslims. That's what they are. They're Muslims. And it's not all Muslims doing it, but it is a select number of Muslims that are doing it because they want to bring about the end of not only Canada and white people, Christians and Hindus and so on in Canada, they want to bring about the end of the United States. Now, for all my American friends watching this, you have to understand that Canada's border with the United States it's unguarded. How do you guard that much border space? What is it, Ed, 7,000 kilometers? It's insane.
How they use drones, that's how.
Well, they're using, yeah, but it's obviously not working as well as it could, everyone. So what I want to say here is that Canada is being used as an aircraft carrier to get radical Muslims and the radical Communist Party members into the United States. And I really do think that America needs to consider this, not just to guard its southern border, but to consider what the Canadian government's doing. And if Donald J. Trump does get into office, this is what I am looking forward to. And that would be Trump being so fed up with everybody coming in over the border that they seal the border with Mexico and decide to either annex Canada or remove the government of Canada forcefully and put in their own government. Ed, your thoughts? Go ahead.
Kevin, are you insinuating that the Danforth shooter's brother that had enough fentanyl or carfentanil in his basement to kill every Canadian 7 times is an Islamist?
I'm Muslim.
Okay.
Not Islamist. Muslim. He was a Muslim guy.
Yeah.
He admitted that. He kept coming out saying, praise Allah, I'm proud to be Muslim, and I want to bring death and despair and everything else to the infidel. And I'm wondering why it is that we can all be called these crazy things like kafir and infidel and whatever else they want to call us, and yell phraseology like death to the white man, death to Christians, death to Jews. Why are they allowed to say that in Canada?
Well, same reason.
Go ahead.
Same thing. The little hats can call us Goyim.
Is that what we are? Goyim?
We're Goyim, according to the little hat people.
Oh, very good. Yeah. Well,
basically,
Hashem,
we're like animals.
Hashem makes a good point here. I have a feeling maids has something to do with it. Well, what we've got is we call it the opium crisis. Yeah, Dan, it's called the opium crisis, but they're referring to all drugs because opium is not as popular as it once was. But fentanyl is because it's so cheap to produce, and so is LSD. It's so cheap to produce. Cocaine is now something that you can produce in Canada, United States. It doesn't have to be grown in equatorial regions. So the coca plant can be grown pretty much anywhere hydroponically. It's crazy. So with this taking place, everybody, you need to comprehend that there is an all-out attack on all of us, and you need to strengthen up your thought processes. I don't want to see all of you say, well, I'm going to go get maids because I can't make something of my life. I'm going to get maids because there's too many drugs on the streets. That's what they want. Maids for our outside of Canada friends it's medical assistance in dying. That's where you go to the hospital and say, I feel like dying now. And the doctors will say, oh, good. Okay, just follow me, and strap you to a bed and give you paralyzers, and at which point you don't die from the drugs. You choke on your own saliva to death. It takes a couple of hours to die that way. And then they harvest your organs. That's what Canada has become, everybody. So let's really think through what the country is. And yes, it's depressing, but I don't want you all to give up. What I want you to do instead is recognize what the problems are. Forget what the CBC says. Go with what Ed and I are telling you, because we're the ones that actually do the research. And remember, everybody, when the Canadian government threw me in prison, what did I witness in the province of Ontario prison system? Was the province of Ontario was a massive drug dealer. Everybody was getting fentanyl and heroin in pill format. And here's what's funny, Ed, is if you were given heroin in pill format, you would take it. It was okay. But if you put it in your cheek and spit it out later and then crushed it down and snorted it later on, which a lot of the guys would do, you got in trouble and they would bring in the drug sniffing dogs. How crazy is that? So you can take your heroin as in jail. In jail. They would give everybody heroin who wanted it. Everybody. But in pill format. But crush it down and inhale it later on in the day, you get in trouble. Somehow, Vicodin was being given out to everybody in the Ontario prisons and in Calgary prisons. And again, the guys, they'd crush it up and make it into a powder, and they'd snort that as well. And hold on, I got to address something stupid. Curly May, I didn't say all homeless people are on drugs or alcohol. Don't put words in my mouth. You're not my ex-wife, for Christ's sake, putting words in my mouth like that. I'm saying that the use of drugs and alcohol makes you homeless. My God. Come on, guys. Don't be silly. Anyway, yeah, Vicodin was being given out and other painkillers are being given out, except, and this is the crazy part, except those who actually needed it. All right. There was a guy in the Calgary prison, the remand center. He had his legs were 3 times the size they should be from edema and blood culminating in his legs. And do you know why he was in prison? Is because he woke up from a quasi-comatose state. He was out cold for 4 days after an accident. And when he woke up, he's flailing his arms around, and his arm happened to hit a nurse in the face. And she cried, and they called the police, and the cops say, well, yeah, let's arrest this guy. Let's not use our brains, because cops have no brains in Canada anymore. Let's not use our brains and determine this guy doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know who he is. And the guy was explaining. He woke up in jail and had no idea why he was there. So what they were doing is they would not give him painkillers because he was actually in need of them. But the guys who didn't need painkillers got them in pill format. That's how Canadian prisons work, everybody. Think about that. Ed,
I didn't know I could have been in jail just like that, because I woke up on an operating table and I decked the doctor.
Yeah.
And then I was labeled a violent patient. Mm-hmm. So for a whole week, the nurses wouldn't come. They'd put my food on the tray and push it over. They'd always stay out of hand's reach.
Yeah. Cowards. So you nurses and doctors. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, it took a week before I figured out what was going on. I says, why do I have to do all this alone? Why can't one of you nurses help me? This is quite painful, or this, that, and everything. And one of the nurses says, look, we know you're a violent patient. I said, what? Where did that come from? So, well, it says right here, you clocked the one of the surgeons in the operating room. I says, oh, it's supposed to be sedated. What would you do if you woke up and someone's drilling holes in your leg? It's instinct, think about isn't it?
It's all.
And this guy went to jail for that, something similar, right?
Yeah, he woke up on the operating table. Didn't know where he was. He had all kinds of tubes in his legs to drain the fluid out. So they would make him walk around the jail with just dirty wrappings on his legs. He only got treatment every second day. So they wouldn't even treat this guy. Think about how crazy that is.
Edema is an infection, is it not?
Well, pus is the end result of a bacterial infection. Edema is when there's just your body's unable to kind of dissipate the fluids or absorb the fluids within you, and gravity pulls it into your legs and ankles. But this guy obviously had something wrong because he was in a friggin' accident, and because his arm happened to hit some loser nurse who cried and thought she was being assaulted, or probably didn't think she was being assaulted, probably just wanted retribution. And it's amazing how quickly women want retribution. They're willing to put a man in prison for absolutely nothing. I despise doctors and nurses who say, oh, a patient's violent. Sometimes their brains are just not functioning because you pump them full of drugs. I've taken head injuries before where I didn't even know my own name. I lost the ability to taste food for 8 months. That's how bad one of my head injuries was. So screw all of you. You loser doctors and nurses that cry all the time. He's violent. Our society has become weak and soft, and all we do is put men in prison for nothing because some woman is afraid. And you've ladies, you've heard me say this, and I love you ladies out there, but we can't work together anymore. Men and women cannot work together anymore. It's not working. It's not working. It ends up that women have some kind of emotional reaction to some guy who's either had a bad day or doesn't know where he is because his head is hurt, and we're going to prison for it. Now, I won't be in an office with women anymore. I won't work with them here in Panama. Yes, but if I was in the United States or Canada and someone said, "Oh, you're going to work with these women," no, I'm not. No, I'll take my own office on a floor upstairs. No, I'm not. I won't do it. Period. Based on that, yeah. Listen, I'm an intense guy, Ed. We had a guest on the show a couple of weeks ago, or was it last week? I can't remember now, who said I was too intense for her, that she didn't like my commentary about women. She didn't like my commentary about Canadians being cowards and allowing the radical left and the perverts to take over the country. I'm too intense, she says. No, then don't hang around. Like everyone knows who I am. If you're coming on my show, you know who I am. And yeah, I am pretty intense, as they say, because I'm a little bit fed up with how weak our society has become. And that's the problem also with a weak society. Like C.L. Bryant said earlier in the show, is that we no longer either recognize, so it's either we don't recognize a strong man, or when we do, we want to bring them down. So for the ladies out there, especially the radical leftists, can we just start telling the truth here? Like this experiment of having men and women work together, it ain't working. You can't be firemen. You can't be cops. You can't really be engineers. and you can't be police officers. That's a fact.
Well, we need to have a few.
The headache.
We need a few female cops because you don't want women suspects being searched by guys, right?
Yeah. Okay. So keep 3 of them on. Keep 3 on staff to come out and do the searching of females. All right. That's it. Call them in. Hi, we got to feel up some woman. Bring out a woman to feel up the woman. That's what the cops are doing. It's not a search. You're being felt up. As far as I'm concerned, as soon as some cop's hand touches my balls, which police have done a lot. There's been a lot of cops grabbing my sack because they say they're looking for weapons. No, guys, that's sexual assault. It is. I don't care how you say it. I don't care what you're looking for. I don't want some cop I don't know grabbing my nutsack and grabbing my ass. No, thank you. That's reserved for really good-looking women that I consent to. So I don't give a crap about any of these rules or any of these laws that are being brought forward. This idea that some human beings got the right to feel you up looking for weapons because they're afraid for their safety. If you're such a freaking coward, quit the job. Really, quit the job. Go cut grass. Go ahead.
For the record, I do carry a weapon, and I consider that a weapon sometimes, usually first thing in the morning, sometimes late at night. And I've been carrying it since I was born.
You're too old for weapons, brother.
Oh, my weapon works just fine.
Is that a fact? Well, I wouldn't know, and I'm never going to know, and don't you ever show it to me. Ever.
Wouldn't want to
throw something at it. No, cry. It's not a matter of crying, boy. I'm well aware of the size I got. And I'll put it to you this way. No one's ever choked on it or died from it. I'm happy. All right. Getting back to a bit more serious stuff here, everyone. I want all of you. What?
No one's ever
died? No one's ever died sleeping with me. No, it hasn't happened. There you go. Of course, now look what you did. Now we got people asking questions. Dan wants to know what's the difference between a rifle and a gun. See? Here, Ed. Ed, here, watch. There you go. All righty. So I'm going to address a couple of quick questions in the TikTok room. Do you have to pay the new capital gains tax if you sell a house? Yes, but no, if I'm working for you. If you want that gone, contact me. I'm the guy that gets rid of it. I'm the only one who will. Yeah,
primary residence, you don't pay it, if I'm not mistaken.
If you hire me to get rid of your capital gains tax, you ain't paying capital gains tax. That I can't get into it. This is not a tax show. Wednesday night is the tax and money show. Okay, so we'll do that. I want to I'm warning parents out there that this is not the 1980s. It's not the 70s. Okay, it's none of the above. We are at war, although the problem is with Canadians and some Americans is that we don't realize that we're at war. Our governments are at war with us. The school boards and the radical left wing are at war with us. Muslims are at war with us. Not all. In fact, it's less than 30%, but those groups are at war with us. Communists, the Chinese Communist Party is at war with us. We have all these different things attacking us from every single angle. And in some cases, they are winning when they get the mind share of your kids. So please keep your kids away from public schools anywhere in North America. Just get them out of school and teach them properly. Find tutors who are conservatives, if you are conservative. Teach your kids the real stuff: math, English, science, art history, all the above. Keep them away from these indoctrination centers. The other problem with these indoctrination centers is the school boards are well aware of the fact that drugs are a massive problem in the schools. They're not doing anything about it at all. You know why? Because they say, well, we don't want to interfere with the rights of children to put cocaine up their nose on school grounds.
Hey, Kevin, if you don't feel like keeping your kids at home, why don't you get yourself elected to the school board? You can control what the agenda is. The school board or a school board trustee, if you get enough of you guys on for a specific school district, you can change the policies. You can change what's being taught. Teachers and principals have to obey whatever policies come down from the school board. You're pretty much at the top, and you can actually fight the curriculum. You can actually change it. You can even raise the standards. You can make teachers teach to a higher level. because we know the education system in Ontario has gone to hell in a handbasket. It's not even close to what it was when I was going to school. Not even close. What I was learning in grade 6 is what they're teaching in grade 12 math. That's how bad it's gotten. How do I know this?
Well, yeah,
I went to college in 1998, 99. I couldn't believe the kids didn't even know basic algebra. This is grade 6 math that the math teacher had to reteach the kids in college. And I'd been out of school for like 15 years at that point. And I was a solid D student back in the day. So,
okay. Well, the education system sucked when I was in it in the 70s, but it's 1,000 times better than what they have now. There's no education anymore. It's all indoctrination. We know that. And we have schools teaching our children about the joys of anal sex in grade 4 and 5, but they're also teaching kids how to roll joints now. Like, why are we doing this? It's about building a society of degenerates. That's what it's all about. Now, parents out there, and I got to make this point before you chime in. I know you're going to chime in on this. We've got this thing in North America. It's a weird mindset. Canada, United States. Our kids turn 18, they're adults, we kick them out of the house. Why do we think this way? Well, they're adults now. They can go make their own way. Again, why do we think this way? I would rather see families build some kind of a family enterprise, a family business, and a family legacy where you don't just throw your kids out the door, but you train them intently on every single skill that you have. You should be teaching your kids this stuff. You know, kick them out when they get married. Encourage your kids to get married and have a family in their, let's say, mid-20s. Then boot them out the door when they've got a wife and a kid, but you boot them out the door in a position where you're in touch with them all the time and you're there to assist, because family is supposed to be that. You're trying to carry on a legacy, people. You're not trying to say, I've had my kids and I'm tossing them out the door so I can go have fun. That's not how I see it. I think that's sick. People who think that way are absolutely sick. And that's also why your kids are so screwed up these days, is that you're not building a family structure. Let me, and Ed, before you chime in, I'm going to scold the women now. Huge. And I don't care about your emails and your anger. Women out there think that their happiness is paramount. And that is why 80% of divorces actually it's 83 now, 83% of divorces in North America are initiated by women. Who the hell told you you've got the right to be happy? Now, here's the other thing. Who the hell told you it's a man's responsibility to make you happy? It's your responsibility to make you happy. So you initiate divorces, you completely destroy any chance for a family legacy, and then you fight your ex-husband, your now ex-husband, for custody of your kids. And yes, I am Brown. I have 2 kids. I want more. And this idea, ladies, that you're going to find someone better, I promise you you're not. I promise you you're not. Let's cover this. If your man doesn't hit you, doesn't in any way throw objects at you, doesn't pimp you out to his friends, doesn't force you to do really egregious things that you don't want to do, has a job, brings money home, doesn't throw crap at your kids, doesn't lock you in the closet, doesn't tie you to his car and make you run to keep up some kind of punishment. These are things that women have to put up with. If he doesn't do any of that, you can't do any better. You cannot do any better, period. So stick it out and build a family legacy. That's what Ed was asking earlier in the show, the destruction of the nuclear family. And as for the guys, hey, your reason your women are walking all over you is because you let them do it, because you don't have enough testosterone going. Get a couple of testosterone injections and go to the goddamn gym, become men again. Keep your households together, everybody. Don't kick your kids out at age 18. That's the last thing I wanted to do. The only reason that my son moved out when he was 19 is because he wanted to prove to himself that he could do it. I said, fine, but you don't have to go. You got a key. You come back anytime. Do it. That's how you should be looking at it. On a moment's notice, if he said, yeah, Pops, I want to work on this legacy you talked about. No problem. Yeah, come on back. Let's get it done. I am not in any way wanting to ditch my kids. You should not be either. You got to keep the family unit together, especially now with the Islamic groups at war, the Chinese groups at war, our own government at war, the left wing at war, all these, and now the cops too. The police all over Canada are on everybody's case who is a conservative. You got that battle too. You got to keep your family legacy together, everybody. Never mind this stupid idea that you got to boot your kids at 18. Ed, go ahead.
I take it you're not a fan of the Communist Manifesto, Kevin, because everything you've said is against the Communist Manifesto.
I hate the Communist Manifesto. That idiot, Karl Marx. Let's cover Karl Marx for a second for all you left-wing nuts out there that think he's a great guy. This is a loser. Karl Marx was a loser. Do you know what Karl Marx did? He had some stupid ideas. And with his stupid ideas, he found some stupid friend of his to bankroll his stupid ideas. He never had a job. Huh?
Rothschilds bankrolled him.
No, it wasn't. No, not at the beginning. Not at the beginning. Hold on. He wasn't a name until after he started shouting at the top of his lungs. He got that later. With Karl Marx, he never had a job. He never held public office. This guy never contributed to society, never volunteered his time anywhere, and never had any degrees of any particular kind. But he was espousing all kinds of stupid crap in this Communist Manifesto, a book he did not write, but just kind of dictated to a scribe. And when the Brits figured out who this guy was, they wanted to know why he had so much influence. They sent spies out to meet this guy. And the spy reports were declassified about 25 years ago, where they stated there was so much dirt in this guy's house that if you sat on a couch or a chair, that you would ruin your trousers. Yeah, that's the word they use, trousers. This guy got meat innards from local butcher shops. He'd say to his kids, here, play with these. Never bought them toys because he couldn't afford them. Could you imagine your father comes home with dead animal parts and says, play with this, here's your toy? That's what Karl Marx was, everybody. So for the left-wing Antifa losers out there that wear his face on their shirts, congratulations. You're a loser too. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, so anyways, what this guy did was about 120 years ago, and all this stuff got publicized. This has infiltrated all of our governments. It's all about control. And our previous guest, Mr. Bryan said, slaves love to be controlled. They're comfortable being controlled. And this is a system of control. And we're all supposed to accept that in this country. That's not what made Canada and America great, guys.
Well, freedom. No, I know. And there's a lot of people out there, Ed, who think it's the government's responsibility to take care of them. You know, I want my free money so I can sit on my ass in Starbucks drinking $10 coffees that the government pays for, sitting on my laptop, doing absolutely nothing.
And who did that money get stolen from? Who did that money get stolen from to put in your hand? Somebody else worked for that money, generated that money, so the government could take it from them and give it to you. That's why taxation is theft.
Absolutely. And that is also why I don't pay tax, everybody. I stopped paying tax in the year 2000, and I will never pay taxes again. And that's why I teach people how not to pay tax legally, because it's being stolen from you and given to losers who never work, will never work, who will never contribute to society in any particular way. And then it also goes to guys like Zelensky. So stop, you know what, just work hard, make money, but keep it. Stop paying your taxes. It's unreal. Oh,
so, man. You mentioned Zelensky. Zelensky and Putin are actually working together on this war. You know that, eh?
Oh, I doubt that very much.
No, they're working together on this war.
Please tell me how.
They're both puppets for the banksters, indirectly. Someone is controlling their strings. What's happened in Ukraine, it's been a white genocide. Was it 500,000 dead or something? But we don't even know what the real numbers are. They locked up and then they killed, what's this guy's name? The proving guy that's an American citizen. And mainstream media was quiet about it. They killed the guy in a Ukrainian jail just because he was live streaming what was going on and what wasn't going on. Oh, what's the guy's name? Help me out, chat. Oh, come on. I can't.
I know who you're talking about. Okay.
I can't remember.
Okay. Aside from the opinions of one journalist who's now dead, what's the benefit to Putin working with Zelensky on this thing, to Russia?
This war is usually about money and resources. And the guy's name is Gonzalo Lira. Rest in peace. Man did nothing wrong and he was killed in a jail. No, Gonzalo Lira, who we're talking about right now, Hashem.
Okay.
And okay, so what's the benefit? The powers that be want to reduce the white population. Who is going to stand up to the powers that be other than white people? It sure won't be the blacks. It definitely won't be the Chinese. And the Hispanics, most of them they're just worried about where their next meal is going to come from because a lot of these people have been impoverished. They haven't developed the societies or the technologies like the white people have. Who is going to threaten their power the most?
Well, we know that. I mean, Klaus Schwab said that in his book about the fact that we need to reduce the white population because whites are the ones that rebel the most and rebel the best. They have the most successful rebellions. He, of course, he's not happy about that, even though he's white himself. And he's going to be dead long before any of his ideas end up panning out for him. But there's a lot of people like him who want absolute control over the mind, body, and spirit of the rest of us. But getting back, look, I want to go back a little bit here, if I could, please. All right, Canada, United States as well. It's the schools that are the problem with your kids. You got to get your kids away from these things. And in Canada, we do have the groups distributing drugs everywhere. You got to talk to your kids about this stuff. All right. And I've been asked, actually, because I do tax consultations for an hour. You go to my website, you grab a 1 hour consultation. I've had 5 consultations now where people just wanted me to talk to their kids about the reality of life. All right. One was a young lady under the age of 12, and the other one were boys under the age of 18 who I don't think understand how the world really works. They were looking for some advice, some guidance, what books to read, how to build themselves up more confidently, and so on. And I have no problem doing that. So some of what I'm saying here is the same thing that I would say to any young man. Guys, you got to fill your head with books. Read books that were written before the late 90s. That way there's no left-wing bias in them. Go to the gym. Archery. Learn it. Learn how to fight with knives. Learn how to defend yourself. These are life skills that you're absolutely going to need, guys, because all this junk and garbage from Africa and the Middle East is being forced into the Western world, specifically to water down the white population. It's a tribal mentality where all these people are coming from. And so they are raping white women and white children and killing white men all over the Western world. It's going to get worse before it gets better. So you better start standing up now. So for the young men out there, never mind this idea of you go to high school and you get your diploma. Then you go to college or university and get a degree. And then you get a really, really, really good job. That's not how it works. That model is a lie. It's BS. It doesn't work. No, you young men out there, understand, learn how finance works. Learn how money works. Understand the system, and you guys got to start some kind of online business. Don't get a job. It's going to destroy you. A job is what you do. You trade in your future for nothing, for a little bit of cash. And I'm telling you, even at minimum wage right now, being as high as it is in North America, you're not buying a house with that money. You're not doing anything with that money. So yeah, I am doing a lot of consultation now for young men out there to guide them down the pathway of betterment. And unfortunately, Ed, I think this is kind of a Christian thing. I think this goes back to biblical times, because Mexico, Costa Rica, and Panamanian kids, especially the males, are taught, get an education, get a job. Get an education, get a job. So I've actually been talking to a lot of young men down here in Panama. I'm saying, you know what, guys? Never mind this job crap. Master English and become interpreters, because Spanish is going to overtake French as an international business language. And if you can speak Spanish and you can speak English fluently, you're going to do incredibly well. And you know what? The same thing for you kids in Canada. Forget French, because that crap they teach in Canada, it's not French anyway. It's Quebecois caca. Yeah. Bonjour, mon ami. I am from Quebec, eh? It's not French. It's stupidity. But down here, if you can speak Spanish fluently, you can translate for the banks, the canal, all the shipping companies that are here, the government. There's money in Spanish-speaking countries. So start learning it now. And for my Panamanian friends, get your kids in English classes now. Get them to have a vocabulary of at least 40,000 words in English. They'll make bank, man. They will make money here. Ed, go ahead.
I wanted to address this comment here.
Yeah.
And Putin refused to go along with their New World Order agenda. Didn't Putin have a Sputnik vaccine? Didn't he jab most of his population? And
I don't. Hold on. That's what the media said, but I've never been to Russia. Edward Snowden, he got asylum in Russia when he whistle blew on the American government. I would be more apt to believing anything he has to say about Russia than anybody else reporting the news from here. You got to remember, everybody, it's not like Canadian and American news outlets actually travel the world bringing news to you anymore. They just don't. Remember when I was in Myanmar in the war zone there, it was the funniest thing going. I had a chance to actually present my 2 weeks in the war zone to a number of diplomats in downtown Yangon. And as I walked in the door, there was a white chick about 25 with a little Canadian maple leaf sitting on her desk. And this probably Japanese or Korean descent, but definitely Canadian born because he spoke English, and then some other guy. And I walked in, all I heard was, "Oh, F." Like she was actually swearing because I walked in. I guess they had no idea that I was going to be the presenter that day. So the Canadian embassy in Myanmar knows who I am and hates my guts. That's okay. I hate you too. So as I am presenting, I'm getting all kinds of dirty looks from this Australian chick, this morbidly obese Australian journalist. She called herself an expert on the whole Rohingya crisis in Myanmar because she was in Yangon eating at fancy restaurants and staying in a fancy hotel. None of them were in the war zone. In fact, the war zone that we went into, every single Myanmarian citizen that was in that conference room had never been to the Rakhine state on the west side of the country. They couldn't believe. They're actually astonished. Like, why would 3 white guys go in there? I can't believe they did that. So that's what I'm getting at, everyone, is that there's no such thing as journaling anymore. So if anyone's going to say, but Putin vaccinated his people, according to who? Who was there reporting this? Edward Snowden wasn't reporting that. And he's been a pretty honest guy. I trust him over any media. But Ed, who? Who's telling us this stuff? I don't think Putin would go for something stupid like that at all. Go ahead.
I'm Googling it right now. How many Russians?
Okay, but if you're going to Google that and read the results, I want to know which media outlet's telling you that. Because I gave the Myanmar example just to give you an idea of how many, and I mean literally how many journalists don't actually do any work. They just utter whatever they are told to utter. I went through this nonsense with the Canadian press. The Canadian press were a bunch of losers that just wrote articles from home. And once in a while, I would get a phone call from someone saying, "Hi, I'm blah, blah from the Canadian press. Can we do an interview with you?" Sure. And I would record the interview and stick it on my YouTube channel at the time. And you'd listen to the 2 interviews, mine versus theirs. And they would actually take what I said and they would cut it into questions that they didn't even ask. That's not journalism. That's tabloid nonsense. That's the National Enquirer. That's what that is. Ed, what do you got?
Less than 5%.
Less than 5. Okay, so who told you that? First off, that sounds correct. But who told you? Huh?
Wikipedia.
All right, well.
Sorry, 9.5% of Russians had received the vaccine.
I don't think it's that high.
Forbes Russia established that Russia committed to export 205 million of doses of Sputnik V to other countries. Can't find any other. Approximately 3.8 million Russians received both doses of Sputnik 5, a vaccine against coronavirus. So they sold a lot more than they gave to their people. A lot more.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure Putin...
250 million doses, but only administered 3.8 for 8 million doses, just under 8 million.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right. Well, Putin is not a dumb guy. Now, he's also right now been accused of weaponizing mass migration to crush the West. Of course, that is the accusation about the Belarusians as well. He's got a country to run. You got to remember, there are still some cities in Russia that are they're communist because they're just so far away from the rest of the country that the modern Russian influence hasn't even gotten there yet. It's a very big piece of land. Russia is not small, and it's got an incredibly large population. And remember, it's split into God knows how many republics. I mean, name some of them. Let's go in the north, like Latvia and Estonia and Belarus. On the southwest, we got Armenia, Georgia. We've got Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Chechnya. There's a whack of them.
Down in that corner, there's actually another war starting up soon. The Caucasus.
Oh.
They're out there. It's firing up again. But you won't hear about it in the Marxist corporate media here in this country.
No, you won't. If it doesn't suit the narrative, you're not going to hear anything about it. It's just how it is. And some of the things, huh?
John Hopkins reports 35% of Russians received 2 doses of the vaccine.
Yeah, there's no way it's 35%. There's no way. There's no way. And I'm not going to buy into that. And of course, I would call BS on that nonsense. And there we go. So Jay says NATO, USA, Canada, people actually see what's going on now. Kenya. Okay, it's too short. Can you rephrase that question there, please? Certainly do appreciate that. So everyone, the warning I wanted to give you here is you got to keep your families away from this left-wing nonsense. Keep your kids away from Canadian universities. They are of no value whatsoever. Like, think about the degrees that you could possibly get in Canada. Did you know you can actually get a degree for comedy in Canada? You can get a degree. And you can get that one from Humber College, of all places. Women's studies, a degree in women's studies. I could imagine that course is 4 years of saying, crush the patriarchy, men are bad, don't have babies. You're a strong, independent woman. That's what women's studies would be. What value would that have? What value would gender studies have? What is gender studies? There are 2 sexes. Gender is not a real thing. That's just a construct put forward by pedophiles to try to convince your kids to touch them in places. That is not a real word, gender. So what would that be? 4 years of gender studies. Ed, any clue what's in that course?
Of gender studies.
Yeah, or women's studies. Or any of that nonsense.
It's Marxist shit.
Yeah.
What else could it be?
And there was, University of Toronto. Remember we covered last year? University of Toronto has a Dungeons and Dragons course that you have to play. Yeah, you have to play Dungeons and Dragons in school. We had a Dungeons and Dragons club when I was in grade 6 in school, and it was banned in the school because in the game you slay dragons. It's all in your imagination. Like, it's not like I've never killed a dragon in my life. So it's not like we really kill dragons. We just talk about it in this imaginary game. So it goes from banning D&D to having a course where you have to create a character. And I guess what? You got to get your character to be a level 5 cleric. Is that what it is? Everyone? Yeah, I know the terminology. I used to play the game as a kid, but certainly not as an adult going to going to university. So if we're playing board games and getting degrees in board games, then our society is screwed. Please keep your children away from these places. Don't give universities money in Canada or the United States, period. Learn a trade, kids. If you're male and under 25, learn a trade. Plumbing is a big one. There's no plumbers left. And AI is not going to be able to do plumbing for people. I can promise you that. Nor stone masonry. Learn these high-level skills. Underwater welding. You can make $300 an hour US here in Panama if you can weld underwater. And I'm not talking living in a diving bell for 4 months under the sea. I'm talking about putting on scuba gear, go under the sea like 9 feet and weld stuff on ships and docks. Yeah, you can make that kind of money. Learn trades. That's what you need to learn. And while you're learning trades, learn crypto and learn finance. If you've got these diverse skills, then you're going to do okay in life. And of course, if you want dating advice, let me know on that. Because guys, there's a whole ton of stuff you got to know about that too. But yeah, Ed, we're down to our last 15 minutes here.
If you want to learn about money, you got to read or watch The Creature from Jekyll Island. It's crucial.
Oh, give us a synopsis.
A bunch of guys get together. They go to an island called Jekyll Island. I think it's down off of the coast of
Georgia.
Took a train. They went down individually. Nobody knew who they were. It was all on the down low. They got together and said, guys, how can we rig the American system so that we can print money out of thin air and charge the government and the people interest on this money created out of thin air? That's the abridged version. There's a lot more to it than that. And then look into who died when the Titanic was sunk. Who are the industrialists or people who are standing up against the creation of the Federal Reserve that went down with that ship? And why did certain people stay behind and take the next one over? There's no planes back then, by the way. Not transatlantic flights.
No, not transatlantic flights. That's for sure. At all.
Oh, did you hear the interesting where Amelia Earhart ditched the plane a couple days ago?
I heard. Where did she ditch?
They found the wreckage. She wasn't far from the island that she was supposed to get to, but they ran out of fuel.
Oh man, that is horrible. I got a question here, or statement someone made here about it costs $20,000 to get your trucking license in Canada. Got a problem here, Canada. Indians, like not Indians. We're talking turban Indians and whatnot. Hindus completely control trucking in Canada. Brown people came to a white country. White people said, "Don't call us racist. By the way, you take over everything. It's fine." And they've done it. They've taken over the trucking industry, period. So what's going to happen here is there will be a lot more deaths on the road because they just don't care. Indian people have a culture, and the culture is make as much money as you can, follow as few rules as possible, screw over as many people as you can, lie, and lie some more. That's Indian culture, and I hate it. I don't do business with Indians because it's always a game of cat and mouse. Are you going to get paid? Are you going to get shot in the head, stabbed in the back? That's what it is. They completely run the trucking industry now. Stay out of the trucking industry, unless, of course, you're going to be some kind of crusader to pull them all over. But what you'd have to do is grow some balls and be the kind of guy to say, we're going to pull over every non-white Indian guy and check his truck and find a way to pull him off the road. That's how you solve the problem. But Canada's multiculturalism and diversity is our strength. And they'll say racism and they get away with it. Even when they cross the American border, they shout racism at the white border guards and they get away with trucks that are not safe. I'm sick to death of it. But if your kids are thinking about becoming truck drivers in Canada, don't do it. You're never going to get a job. You'll never make money doing it.
Well, you'll make about $20 an hour, which is it's not enough
which
to
is
live
nothing.
on.
Oh, Gary says, hold on. Gary says, I'm in New Hampshire. Everybody's white. It's freaking me out. It's nice, isn't it?
What?
It's a joke.
Where?
Hi, New Hampshire. Do you know where that is? New Hampshire.
It's close to Boston.
Pronounced New Hampshire by some. It's a state by Massachusetts. Yes, it's a state on the East Coast. All right. And what to do is asking. I have a friend that got CERB money. He's a tensioner. They sent him letters every couple of months. Yeah, if you guys want to get rid of your CERB debt, let me know. I had an 18-year-old kid beat the CRA in court last week and got all of his CERB. He gets to keep all the CERB money. It's easy to win, but you gotta talk to me, everyone. All right, there we go. So we have a real problem in Canada, everybody, and the United States. We are allowing this word racist to dictate the terms to all of us and how we're going to live our lives. And when someone calls me racist, the correct response is you call them racist right back. When someone says, "Oh, you're racist," I would say, "No, you're racist. You're an absolute racist maniac." And then you keep accusing them of it over and over and over again. You hit them as hard as you possibly can. Just keep calling them racist. Then call them racist publicly. Then do it on social media. You know what they do? They quit. Every single Muslim individual in Ontario that called me Islamophobic and a hate monger, I would call them Jewophobic, and I call them Christianophobic, and I call them racist and anti-Canada and anti-white. I called them everything, and they all disappeared. They all stopped their attacks. You notice how antihate.ca, I used to be target number one for them. I have been calling them pedophiles and terrorists and traitors for the last 3 years. They have not written an article about me for 2 years now because I just hit them hard with their own rhetoric. Go on the attack. Go on the attack. Ed, go ahead.
Dan, it's not the drivers that are taking a dump. It's there's usually 2 or 3 guys so they can keep the truck rolling 24/7. And what happens is the guy that's not driving, there's a hole somewhere in the cab, and that's why the drive shaft or the axles or the springs are
covered. We talked about that last week, where these Indian guys, the Hindus and the Sikhs, cut holes in the bottom of their truck and crap all over the drive shaft. It's true. It's what they do. And when white mechanics look at the truck and there's human feces all over the bottom of the truck and they say, I don't want to work on this, the Indian guy says, "You're racist. You are very racist. You are very bad man." And somehow white people go, "Oh, no, I'm not. Okay, I'll put my hands all over your human excrement because you called me a name." What's the matter with you?
They got power washers.
I am not washing someone else's truck. If I'm a mechanic and you bring your truck to me and there's even this much poo on it, I'm not touching your truck. I'll tell you, get the hell off my property now. Now, go. Just go. Why are people not doing this? The left wing will tell the right wing, "Hey, you said something not nice on Twitter. Go. I'm not going to serve you." Why can't we do the same thing?
Back in the 80s, I had to get underneath trucks, garbage trucks in the middle of summer, maggots and all. Just brush off a few maggots that would fall down, lift up the back and pull the springs out and put them back in. It stunk like hell, but it was only a minute of pain. It's amazing how fast you can take a spring out and into a truck.
Gotcha.
One person too, usually.
All right. Well, everyone, I just wanted to let you know that we need to ensure, and there'll be no more comments on the screen tonight, Ed. We're done with comments right now. We're down to our last 8 minutes, and I want to make a couple of points. The United States of America is beginning to lose its freedom of speech. Now, that's a little bit of Canada's influence. Canada does not have freedom of speech at all. I remember when those 2 loser cops on Fag Force 1 in Peel Region there arrested me. The one cop, his name was Thompson, total loser, just an absolute pedophile loser, was getting on this kick when he's talking to me in the back of the police car saying, "Kevin, I know that the Americans have freedom of speech, but we don't really have freedom of speech in Canada. You got to be careful what you say."
Yes, we do.
I see, dude, for real, I cannot believe you're saying this to me, but tell you what, just get me to the courthouse, please. All right. I'm done. This conversation is stupid. Just
freedom of expression is in the Constitution
and the Charter.
There you go.
And the Charter. But these are 2 white cops that came to my door to tell me that I'm under arrest. Losers. And that case is still on. Like I told you, I'm in court tomorrow because these two loser cops wanted to arrest me for hate speech. All right. This is 7.5 years ago that the jokes that I cracked were told. 7.5 years ago.
So
what a bunch of losers, fans. Go ahead.
How about a constitutional question? Is hate speech what trumps hate speech or the Constitution?
What is hate speech? Who gets to judge that? That's the other part that that's never been defined. First off, who gets to be the judge of what language is too much for society and too much for you and too much for me? Are any of you out there wanting to give the responsibility of what you get to hear? Are you going to hand that right over to somebody else? You are going to allow someone to make the decision for you as to what you can read and think and purchase and wear. Is that really what you want? Like, go on, put it in the comments right here. Do you think anybody else out there, especially in Canada, especially in the Canadian government, is intelligent enough to decide what is better for society? I can tell you this right now. There are no cops in Canada with high IQs that can ever decide properly for society what is good for it and what is not. There are no politicians in Canada that can do the same thing. There are no teachers or trustees in Canada right now who are smart enough to make that decision for the rest of us. I'm not going to allow anyone to tell me what I can and cannot read or can and cannot say. So I'm happy right now to be out of the jurisdiction of the Peel Regional Police, the bunch of pedophiles that they are, telling me what I can and cannot say, and defending to the death terrorists and baby killing terrorists in that city who I guess are paying the police to silence me. Ed, go ahead.
Now that you're out of the country, I'm going to get off the stream for a second. You can mention this person's name, right?
Not yet, because it's strategic. There are names that I've been told I cannot mention in Canada, but I will be soon. Because look, there's no jurisdiction here. I can say whatever the hell I want here in Panama. I've got court orders in Canada banning me from talking about 152 different people, but I'm not in Canada. I don't even consider myself a Canadian citizen anymore. I really don't. Now that I've seen how human beings are treated in Latin America and Mexico, now that I've been involved with people in countries where there is dignity and respect for the sanctity of life, why would I want to go to Canada where they'll kill you just because you ask them to and then sell your organs to someone? Why would I want to be in Canada where pedophiles run the government and the police and the schools and the municipalities? Why would I want to be in Canada? Hold on, Ed. Just give me a second there. Why would I want to be in Canada where, let me remove that for a second. Come on, do that last. Why would I want to be there where Canadian people clap and cheer when a guy like me or Chris Sky or Pastor Artur Pawlowski go to prison for protecting them? We're protecting their rights and they're clapping and applauding when we get prison time. Why would I want to go there? You know how many stupid Canadians there still are? Left-wing, loser, lazy Canadians who want the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation to think for them, who want CTV to think for them, who want, for some reason, who take their children to drag queen story time. There's why would I want to go to a country like that? Why would I want to be a part of that and give losers like that jurisdiction over me? If you have an intelligence quotient over 120, you are an enemy of the state in Canada. They'll do whatever they can in Canada to crush you, break your spirit, and break your bank, and break you, the human being. That's what Canada does. Why would I want to be there? There's no point. Until Canada falls completely, which it must do. It must enter 10 years of depression and civil unrest and civil war before it can ever be rebuilt again. It's not even a country anymore. It's not a country. It's a joke. And the courts are a joke. And the people who run these institutions are a joke. Far left, dirt, scumbag losers. And I'm sick of it. No, I'm happy to be in Panama here where I'm being treated as a human being. I'm being treated with respect and dignity. It's wonderful. Brad, you're correct. It's probably going to fall very quickly now. All right, Ed, you got something to promote?
Yeah, put the slide up, Kevin.
Go ahead.
I have to share that. So the address is 2814 Lakeshore Boulevard, West, Etobicoke. Doors open Saturday, 5 p.m. It's a restaurant and whole bunch of speakers, whole bunch of panelists. I don't even think there's a cover at the door. And it's close to Browns Line and Lakeshore, I've been told. So again, the address is 2814 Lakeshore Boulevard West in Etobicoke.
What time and day?
It starts 5 p.m. on Saturday and then Sunday morning into Sunday afternoon. Whole bunch of information.
And there's a lot of good Canadian celebrity doctors going to be there. The ones who lost their licenses for telling the truth about you know what. And I can't say what because YouTube is running right now. And they will give me a strike if we mention that word because YouTube and Google suck. I despise them. All right, everybody. That's it for now. Ed?
That's in Toronto. We gotta go.
It's in Toronto. Okay. Done. Show's over. Good night, Ed. All right, everyone. I want to say thank you to CL Bryant, our good friend who's a former advisor to Donald Trump. And we're hoping that Donald J. Trump is going to be president again because this Democrat Party is something that none of us can stand. They are good for nothing. They have helped nobody. The Americans have a president who's done nothing in his entire career. Imagine being in office in some way for 40 years and achieving absolutely nothing except giving birth to a cocaine-fueled child rapist. Think about what runs America right now. Horrible. And America, you can fix it. You can. So get busy and fix it. Wow. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Kevin J. Johnston Show that runs absolutely every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We cover all the stories that Canadian media are too gutless to even consider talking about. I'm going to keep telling the truth, especially now that I escaped Communist Canada and living here in Panama, where I have true freedom of speech. You guys should come down here and try it. I think you're going to like it. Awesome. Have yourselves a great night. I love you all.